Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to make this earring here. It is a sterling silver wire wrapped gemstone earring. So all the components are sterling silver, and then we have this lovely amethyst gemstone in the center and little seed beads along the outside. So what I like about this design is I use this wonderful round link that you see here. So here's the component I used. But you could take the same process I'm going to teach you here and use any of these other shaped components that are available at Beadaholique. And this is just a small sampling, but you could do it with a kite shape, a teardrop, a marquee. So a lot of different options. You can even play around with shapes that have a little interior and exterior loop as well. So in terms of what you're going to need though for this earring, you're going to need one of these wonderful links. It's a 25mm one, 2 sterling jump rings, an earring hook. Now I chose this one that had this almost like a round spiral design because I thought it mimicked the shape of the ring nicely. But again, you have a lot to choose from. You're going to need that gemstone drop, and that is amethyst. And then I have a 2-inch sterling silver head pin. And then the real big component for this, the thing that really sets it apart, is that delicate wire wrapping. And for that, I'm going to be using 26 gauge dead soft sterling silver wire. So this is actually quite a bit of wire you have here, so you're going to be able to do a lot of different projects. If you like to work with sterling silver wire, you can make a ton of earrings using the same technique with this wire. The tools you're going to need are a couple pairs of chain nose pliers, a cutter, and a round nose plier. Or I'm going to be using a wire looping plier. It's going to do the same effect. I just really like that the wire looping plier has that round nose and the concave, and it does some of the work for me. For this earring, you will want to begin by cutting yourself 12 inches of the sterling wire. Since this is a precious metal wire, we try not to waste very much. So 12 inches is pretty much exactly what you're going to need. You're going to have a little bit of leftover, but you really need that leftover to be able to grip your work properly as you're doing it. Start off by feeding your wire through the center hole. You want a tail of about 1 inch, just enough to be able to hold on to it as you're doing your wrappings. And the hardest part of this whole earring is really the beginning. Oh, and you know what? I don't know if I mentioned, we're also going to be using some seed beads. I've got Miyuki Delica seed beads in gold here, and they're size 11/0. So we've put the wire through the center hole. We're taking it around the outside, feeding it back down through the center, and making a loop. Don't worry if your loops are not tight at this point. You're really just trying to achieve that anchor point. So repeat that and just help your wire go through. You don't want it to kink. And at this point, I'm going to start to grip some of my existing loops. And I'm gripping it fairly heavily. You can see it's made a little indent in my hand. It'll go away in just a minute. But the wire to begin with can be a little slippery. Okay, so I'm going to go through again. And I like the 26 gauge dead soft because it does go easily in and out of the center point. So I've made about 4 little loops. At this point, I'm going to use my nails. I'm going to squish them together a little bit. And now I'm going to try to make about 4 or 5 more loops, but this time, since it is anchored, have them line up close to each other. And you see, I'm just really pushing that wire through that center hole with my thumb. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. I'll put it against that gray so you can hopefully see it a little bit better. And don't be afraid to push your wire loops together with your fingernails. I'm really just scooting it along that outer edge. And once I've gotten, let me just do one more. You're going to have more loops in this, but we're going to do that at the end stage here of our wrapping. So you don't have to worry too much about your count right now. All right, so now we're going to add our first seed bead. So we're just going to use the tail of the wire, much like a needle. Pick up our seed bead, let it drop, and we want to wrap our beads on the inside of the circle. So we're just going to pull that up to rest inside. Hold the bead. I know I'm covering it with my thumb. Unfortunately, there's no way not to. Just hold that bead and wrap your wire around again. So you just really trapped it in the center. Now, if you want to, you can do just a nice loop around with no beads, or you can just go ahead and add another bead. I'm going to add another bead. And I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to hold it in the center as I feed my wire through. And it just traps it in there. And then I'm come around to the front again and add another bead. Let it drop. Hold it. Come around again. And this is just what we're doing here, you'll see. We're just wrapping it around and around, adding a bead each time. And I'm going to do that until I get to right up about here. And then I'm going to take care of this end and then also finish up my wrappings. So here, let me do another one, and then I'm just going to keep going, adding them until I finish my circle. Okay, if you look at where I'm at, I'm not quite to the end, but this little guy right here is starting to get in the way. So what I want to do, this was my loose wraps just to get my anchor point. I'm going to unravel that tail to the point where I have my neat and tidy wraps. And then I'm going to trim it. So I'm going to pull it to the back and just trim it right up close. So now that's not in my way anymore. So I'm going to finish a couple more wraps, and then I want to leave, as you see in this example here, I have about a ½ inch of just wrapping without any beads. And that's what I want to mimic on this other earring as well. When you're doing it yourself, you can make that a smaller width, or you can make it a larger amount of the non-beaded wraps. Totally up to you. Definitely feel free to play. That is, we're here to give you ideas. If you want to follow the project exactly, please definitely do. But also feel free to, go off of the pattern and do something that, catches your fancy as you're doing it. Because often with wire wrapping, what I found is the beads or the wire will lead me and tell me what they want to do. And it sometimes ends up a totally different design than what I originally had in mind. So if that's happening to you, definitely go with it. All right, so I want to look at this one, and that looks about right. So I'm just going to do some more wrappings without any beads. Just loop it through and then make those nice, tight little coils. If you need to or want to, scoot them together until you fill in the gap. Okay. Pull it to the back side. So now you do know what your front and back is, because your back is where you trim the original one. And go ahead and trim it off. And take your chain nose and just gently press in any rough ends of the wire. And there we go. And let me show you how much wire you have left, because it is a precious metal wire. You have almost 4 inches. I felt like I needed this to be able to do my wrappings, to have something to hold on to. You can save this though. This would be great to wire wrap a briolette in. So save that little scrap for another project. Let's go ahead and make our little gemstone dangle. I've got a sterling silver head pin. I'm going to place onto it 1 seed bead, my pretty amethyst bead, and another seed bead. And if you look at my sample here, I have about 3 rows of coils here, because this was a very wiry piece. It was meant to look nice and wire wrapped. So instead of grabbing my wire right where the bead exits, I'm going to go up a little bit, just about maybe 2 millimeters, just so I have a longer neck there to wire wrap. I grabbed my wire, I squeezed, it did some of the work for me, pull it around, and now I think I can either hold it like this with my pliers, or I can grab my chain nose. I'm just going to grab my chain nose and then use my fingers to do my wraps. When you're happy with your wraps, so I've got about 3 there, I'm going to trim my tail. And be really careful on this part. When you tuck in your tail, make sure you're grabbing only your wire and not that seed bead. I cracked a seed bead when I did this the first time because I gripped too low and I squeezed. So just be cautious of that. So now we're going to open up a jump ring. So this is an open jump ring. It has a little slit open at the top. I'm going to grab it on both sides and twist. Link on our little drop. Link it around our wire wrapping. And close it. Now what I found, I want to make sure this is closed properly. There we go. I found gravity helped to keep this in the center. So once I put it in the center, I kind of played with it a little bit and gravity helped to keep it in the center. So I didn't really feel a need to anchor it more because when I was mimicking the movement of wearing it, it stayed nice and centered. If you want, you can do a little extra wire wrapping to anchor it. So now we're going to take a second jump ring, open it up, link it to our now existing jump ring. Sorry, you have to be able to get that little gap there. There we go. And now link on the earring hook. Close it back up. And again, I was paying attention to what was my front and back, so this will hang properly. And let's get it untangled from that little seed bead, and we have our little earring. So that is what our wire wrapped sterling silver gemstone earring looks like. I'll put those side by side so we've got both of them. So, and I really do love that earring hook. I think that's a great earring hook for this design. And don't forget, you can use the same technique on all these other shapes. You could do gold filled, you can do the sterling, you could use a bunch of different gemstones, all different colors of seed beads. Really have fun with this design. So if you liked this video, please do check out our other videos on YouTube and subscribe to our channel, and then also visit Beadaholique.com for all our videos and all of our free projects.